Hello everyone. Our topic this week was requested by the Irish Templar. We'll be going over Shay Cormac from the Assassin's Creed franchise. Spoilers for Assassin's Creed Rogue specifically. Les deux.
So, Shay Patrick Cormac is the protagonist of Assassin's Creed Rogue. The game takes place primarily during the 7 Years' War, which lasted through the mid-1750s and the early 1760s. Before that, though, Shay was born to Irish immigrants and raised in colonial New York. He grew up with his best friend, Liam O'Brien, with the two young boys roughing it out together on the tough, poorer streets of the city. When he grew older, Shay joined his father, who was a sailor by trade, and learned the art of the sea. Still more years passed, and Shay's father was one of several crewmen who lost their lives at sea. With his father gone, Shay temporarily lost his taste for sailing and returned to New York to mourn at the bottom of a bottle and drown his pain in bloody knuckles and broken teeth while roaming various bars and taverns. Just like the old days, Liam came to help him out, sober him up, and put him back on his feet.
By this time in their lives, Liam had joined the American branch of the Brotherhood of Assassins, and with his help, Shay soon followed. He took to the life well enough, honing combat skills already learned at sea while being taught the ways of stealth, assassination, and other wider tricks and tools of the trade. Shay was kind of the black sheep of the Brotherhood, always questioning, always rankling, perhaps more than necessary, at the leadership. In particular, he questioned the real differences between the Assassins and the Templars. But his skills and dedication to any given task could not be denied. He most often worked alongside Liam, and the two made a deadly and effective team. Early on in the game, they took a ship out of some smugglers' hands, commandeering it for the Assassins, and as Shay was one of their most experienced sailors, he was given command of the ship almost by default.
When they returned to their home base, their leader, Achilles, informed them that the Templars had stolen two precursor artifacts from the Assassin's branch in Haiti, a box and a manuscript. The Precursors were an ancient civilization that predated and created humanity. Sparse examples of their widely advanced technology has been discovered, lost, and discovered again all over the globe. For more information on the Precursors, see our video here, and in the description down below. And the Assassins and Templars have fought over their technology since time immemorial. It was common practice for both sides to try to acquire precursor artifacts simply to keep them out of the opposing faction's hands, leaving figuring out what said artifacts did for after the fact. Shay's days were no different. The manuscript was all but indecipherable, and they only had theories as to how to utilize the box. Even so, Shay was sent to hunt down both artifacts. When eventually he acquired them both, ignoring the warnings from the dying Templars he'd taken them from about endangering the world, the Assassins set about deciphering them. With the aid of Benjamin Franklin, they discovered that the box projected a holographic display of the world, highlighting ancient precursor temples.
The Assassins believed that these temples were storage houses for powerful precursor relics and as such, needed to be raided so that the Assassins could hide them from the Templars for safekeeping, or possibly use them if they could be understood. One of the sites revealed by the map was in Portugal, and as Shay was the only member of the Order familiar with the area, thanks to his time as a sailor, it fell to him to travel to Portugal and secure the artifact. Arriving at the location, Shay delved into the hidden precursor temple, finding a mysterious polyhedral artifact at the center of it, which disintegrated in his hands almost immediately. As it did so, the temple around him began to collapse, and not only that, an enormous, destructive earthquake erupted. Shay's temple raid being the in-universe explanation for the 1755 Lisbon earthquake, a real-world event which leveled vast stretches of land and has been estimated by modern scientists to have been at least a magnitude 8.4 quake, which is tremendously powerful considering that the largest earthquake ever recorded was around a 9.5. Shay reeled from what he'd done, blaming himself and the Assassins for the thousands of deaths and ruined lives caused by his mission. Based upon previous discussions of their hideout, Shay knew that a similar event had occurred the last time the Assassins had raided a similar temple, and, wrongfully, concluded that his boss Achilles had willfully sent Shay in, knowing that he was sending the surrounding residents to their graves, in the hopes of either seizing power or simply keeping said power from the Templars.
Which leads us to the weakest point in Assassin's Creed Rogue's story. Overall, it's a very fun game with a decent story. It does a surprisingly good job of showing the player that there are heroes on both sides of any conflict, and how over time, decisions and events can come to change our point of view. The game does a pretty good job of showing this progression of changing beliefs through the lens of Shay's character, who, as a direct result of events surrounding the Lisbon earthquake, eventually defects to the Templars. The problem is that it's entirely possible that the actual breaking point between Shay and the Assassins could have been avoided if these people had just talked to each other. This is an issue Taryn and I have about a lot of fiction. Shay returns home after the Lisbon earthquake and bursts in on Achilles, calling his boss out for sending him to murder thousands of innocent men and women, bringing up the previous quake and declaring that Achilles knew all along what would happen and simply didn't care, demanding to know how Achilles could condone such actions and defaming the rest of the assassins when they jumped to their boss's defense. For his part, Achilles legitimately didn't know that trying to remove the artifact would start the earthquake, and in fact, he presumed Shay must have done something wrong to cause the disaster. The discussion only got more heated, and Achilles had Shay thrown out to cool off. The rest of the assassins, even Liam, siding with their boss over the organization's resident maverick hothead, especially since he didn't actually explain anything that happened. Ultimately, Shay decided to steal the manuscript and leave the assassins, knowing in his heart of hearts that he couldn't let anyone ever set another one of those devices off. Achilles caught Shay in the act, and the two had another shouting match that was so very close to being an actual discussion, but in the end, Achilles couldn't see past Shay being an insolent young brat, and Shay couldn't see past Achilles being an arrogant and possibly morally bankrupt old fool.
Shay attempted to escape the assassin's compound, pursued by every one of his friends and allies, until he stood at the edge of a cliff with no escape. Some of his former allies told him it was over, others begged him to give up the books, certain that all could be forgiven. But Shay was firm. He literally would rather have died than let anyone else find any of those temples ever again. In fact, he would carry the guilt for being the cause of so much death for most of the rest of his life. So, he threw himself and the manuscript off the cliff into the icy ocean, a bullet in his back, only to be fished out and nursed back to health by one of the Templars. The Templar in question knew who Shay was and befriended him while secretly taking the manuscript and was working on trying to decipher the code or language therein. But while he did so, instead of actively trying to convert Shay to the Templar's cause, he enlisted Shay's help in unknowingly helping the Templars in ways that actually helped real people, fighting off street gangs, stopping enemy invasions, destroying poison manufactories, stealing Shay's own ship back from the assassins, and more. Shay's Templar contact never even really offered Shay membership within the Templars until he lay dying in Shay's arms from wounds suffered as a result of the Templar and assassin machinations involving the 7 Years' War. By that time, Shay had come to realize that the Templars were, in his opinion, doing a much better job of protecting the people than the assassins were, and happily joined their cause, informing the Templars of the existence of the temples he wanted to keep the assassins from.
The rest of the game involves Shay actively hunting down his old assassin allies with Templar aid and support, trying to track down the Precursor box and the location of the next known temple. Technically, he's just looking for leads on the box and the temples, but as the game goes on, Shay faces down each of his old allies, killing them with varying degrees of regret or satisfaction, always with a brief two-way barbed debate about who was right and who was wrong, whether Shay was saving mankind or simply a traitorous murderer. Eventually, Shay and the leader of the Templars' American branch track Achilles and Liam to the last temple encountered in the game. The four men arrive at the heart of the temple at the same time, and seeing the device, only then does Achilles realize Shay had been right, that trying to remove it had caused the earthquake. Shay angrily tells his former leader that all of this could have been avoided if they'd just listened, while Achilles comes back with impatience for Shay's continued arrogance. Liam, utterly betrayed by Shay's actions up to this point, draws a gun, intent on killing Shay. Achilles tries to stop him, either hoping to talk more or simply worried about fighting near the artifact. But their ensuing struggle frees it from its pedestal anyway, causing the temple to collapse and forcing another earthquake to be released. Side note, by the end of this game, we still have no idea what these Precursor installations were actually supposed to do. There are theories, but nothing concrete. Liam and Shay escape while dueling, the two leaders escaping through a different route, fighting as well. Eventually, Liam lay dying, and rather than argue with Shay, simply hopes that whatever world he's trying to build ends up being a good one. Afterward, Shay arrives in time to stop the Templar leader from killing Achilles, reminding his new boss that if his old boss dies, so too did the assassin's knowledge that these places were dangerous. Seeing the logic in this, the Templar leader instead simply shot Achilles in the leg, ensuring that he'd never personally be a danger to the Templars again, even if he tried to restore the order that Shay had spent the game gutting. Afterwards, Shay was tasked with finding the Precursor box, which the assassins had spirited off to parts unknown. It took him nearly 20 years, but Shay finally tracked it down to an assassin in France, retrieving the box but not before killing the assassin, leaving the protagonist of Assassin's Creed Unity without a father and continuing on his work for the Templars, presumably to the end of his life.
And that's basically Shay Patrick Cormac. anti-heroes, anti-villain from Assassin's Creed Rogue. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave us a like and share it with someone you know might like it. If you have ideas for videos you'd like to see in the future, do like the Irish Templar and let us know in the comments down below. If you'd like to see more videos, hit that subscribe button, and if you'd like to see our Let's Plays, follow the link in the description and subscribe to our Let's Play channel.
In the meantime, this has been True Masters and Morons, signing off.